So the lesson is called Loving My Tribe. It's AKA, in other words, stewarding my family. And I just really, really thought this was a really good lesson because we all, and the title, Loving My Tribe, I could have put just Loving My Family, but, it's not as interesting. And my husband's like, tribe, what are you talking about, Julie, and then he teased me from there. I said, well,
We enjoy your titles.
you...
It catches people's attention, that's
And,
why.
and am I right, Marie and Hannah, is this a cool word, tribe?
No.
Oh, you don't know.
Oh,
Yeah, homeschool, that's a good thing. So I like Sam's age group, I heard it a couple years ago, not so much now, but when they were first married, this is my tribe, kind of thing. Or you might see an influencer if you're on social media and, they have their little family there, their husband and their kids, and they're like, this is my tribe, this is my safe place, So, in other words, it means that the group that makes up their family unit, that is a group that's bound by blood ties and matrimony. So, of course, the spouse being, them being married, and then the kids by blood. So that's my tribe. I've also heard it for people you hang out with, people you spend time with, but today we're focusing on, the family part. Mainly the blood ties and then relationships by matrimony. One of God's greatest gift to us is that of family. I mean, we've talked about a lot of gifts. God, every day is a gift. Every morning when I walk Gracie outside, and now I love it because it's cooler. I am loving this weather. Mm-hmm. And I don't usually get into pumpkin stuff. I'm just not that way. But this year I'm like, pumpkin stuff. I don't like drinks or anything, but man, the baked goods are calling my name. Of course, I got to be gluten-free and dairy-free. So, now that I go out in the morning, it's staying dark. It's darker longer. So when I take her out at 6 a.m., the stars are still out. And I love that. I was really excited to see it getting lighter, but now there's just something about going out there and seeing those stars out there, and it just screams creation and God to me. And, it just amazes me. So, everything he does for us is a gift. I was thinking this morning going out, God, thank you for the gift of this beauty. And it always, when I see the stars, it always takes me back to, I think it's called the Planetarium at the Creation Museum. It's amazing. If you've never done that, of course, if you take a gentleman and they lean back in that recliner, guess what happens? We heard several snoring. But that is the most amazing thing because it just gives you just a little bit of insight of, just how incredible and awesome our universe is. And then everything that is surrounding us and the beauty of it all, and it's just so much more than meets the eye. And they get those telescopes out, and they're, kind of peel back the layers. Just wonderful, but it shows us what a great God we have. But he gives us so many gifts. And, part of our problem is we do not view things as gifts from God. That's part of our problem. We just take things for granted, Somebody who has a roof over their head and food to eat and clothes to wear, if we're not careful, we take those things for granted. Do you think the person over, in another country that doesn't have those things takes that for granted? If someone gives them, a meal or, something like that, or they are given clothes out of a box that comes, and they appreciate it. And that's what we need to do. We need to appreciate everything God gives us and view it as gifts. And God has placed family in our lives. And he expects us to steward it. Now remember, all along these lessons, stewardship has been about caring for, taking care of. We have a responsibility to take care of our family and to steward our family the way that God wants us to, not the way that we want us to. As Christians, when we have Jesus Christ in our heart and he is our Savior, everything is supposed to be guided by that, by him. And when we don't, and we just live for ourselves, we totally miss the mark, and we are totally missing God's best for our lives. We have got to keep in perspective, okay, I'm a Christian. I love the Lord because of all he's done for me. I need to live for the Lord, okay? I want to live for the Lord. And that changes how we live. If we don't think that way, we're just going to go about life and live it the way we want to. But that is not what we're supposed to do. There is no gratitude for salvation in that. And remember, stop and think about really what salvation is and what it means to us. That costs God the life of his son. Jesus gave it all. And by doing that, he provided salvation for us. And when he rose from the grave, and we have got to constantly bring our mind back around to that, yes, and when I stop and think of the things that my husband has done for me over the years, stuff that nobody else would do, because he loves me, that, when I think about that, that makes me so much more grateful for him. And girls, you stop and think about what your parents do for you. There are parents that do not care for their kids. They don't. We stop and think, oh, who wouldn't love their kids? Well, actually, sadly, ride the bus with us, the bus route. Go door knocking.
In that
Yep.
kind of a generation,
Yep.
me, and that's
Yep.
all that matters.
And that's so true. So be grateful that you have parents that love you and want to care for you, and just learning to look at everything in our life as a gift. And, so stewarding our family, taking care of our family, requires purposeful living. And we've talked about that. We just mentioned it. It's not floating through life. That is not what we're supposed to do. We don't just live. You remember I told you about that little girl in Bible college? She's like, she was like 4 years old, and she flitted, if that's a word. She flitted, just kind of flitted through life, and she was really cute because it was like, hey, you there? But she was having her own good time. Well, we're not supposed to be like that as Christians. We have a purpose. And so we have to make purposeful decisions to live right and to do right because we love Jesus, because of all he's done for us. So while this lesson may seem to focus on children, listen closely, because you'll definitely find that it's not limited to just families with children, but instead it's applicable to anyone with family members. And I've tried to do that here. So we're going to turn to Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 to 9. Deuteronomy 6, 4 through 9. This was a passage that the kids had to learn. I'm pretty sure, yes, that they had to learn this in ACE when we had the school. Okay, so let's read this. Verse number 4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Verse 5, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thine heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might. Verse 6, and these words which I command thee this day shall be in thine heart. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. Verse 8, and thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thine hand, and they shall be as frontlets between thine eyes. And thou shalt write them upon the posts of thy house and on thy gates. So we're going to talk about loving your family, your children, and we'll draw other, parallels with this. Loving your children for the Lord. Loving my tribe, loving my family. How much do we love our family as Christian ladies? So the first thing that you're going to do if you love your children, and poor Leah, she's the one with kids, but it's going to circle back around to all of us, is teach them scriptures. The goal of raising children, and I'm sure Leah would definitely agree with this, is not merely behavior modification. Having them change the way they're behaving so that they're in line with what we tell them to do. Yes, we want that. Boy, when I told my kids, sit down or get over here, I meant it. And they knew it, and they obeyed, and that was important because Sam was telling me about an outing the other day with a mom and dad with them. And the kids were all over the place. and there was no control. That's not how it's supposed to be. That is not how it's supposed to be. It's not good for the kids, not good for the parents' sanity, and it certainly isn't good for everybody else that has to deal with it, and they were having to deal with it. So anyway, so the goal of raising children is not merely behavior modification, it's a heart transformation. Aaliyah's not looking for Marie and Hannah just to obey just because she said so. She's looking for them to obey because she said so and because they love her and want to obey her. And as they get older, they want to obey because they love God and know it's right. Okay? So that's very different than just teaching behavior modification. Do what I say. Okay? There's a transition here. You know, as toddlers and little kids, it's going to be just do what I say. You know, I said, come over here. I want you to come over here. Come, let me show you how to come over here. Okay? And I may seem like I wasn't a mean mom, but as a firm mom, I expected obedience. But my kids will tell you they know they're loved. In fact, I called Devin this morning at so it would have been 8 there. It was 9 here, and I'm like, we miss you already. And he's like,
We do.
wow, Mom. So definitely,
They feel good though.
yeah,
I'm sure.
definitely have a great relationship with the kids. So as children grow, we nurture and teach them. That's our job. Proverbs 22:6. Let's turn there because there's not too many scriptures to turn to this morning. Proverbs 22:6. And how about Hannah? You want to read that? No?
Hannah.
How-
What was it?
Proverbs 22:6.
Train up a child in the way should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it.
Excellent. Thank you, Hannah. There's just something really special about hearing, you know, someone, I don't, you're a kid. You mind me calling you kid? You're a kid. Marie, are you a kid? You're a young lady, right? All right. And I told Wyatt, I said, no men allowed in here, because he was going to have to go to the men's class, and Hannah in here. I said, no men or pre-men allowed in here. You got a good chuckle out of that. But anyway, so as children grow, we're supposed to train and nurture and teach them. That's our job. And we are seeing parents these days who want to be the kid's best friend. Doesn't work. And guess what, Grandma? Doesn't work that way either. Now, there is a different relationship. But I've already had to, you know, ask the Lord to help me with this is when he's doing wrong, either of those boys, I need to stop it. I need to teach them. That's not okay. You know, Weston, he'd get in my arms and I'd try to feed him. And he just wants to move and be all over the place and be impossible to feed, you know, and he wants to sit up and all that. And at first I was really, you know, just like, oh, okay. You know, and I've learned, though, because Devin and Kristen don't let him do that. And I thought to myself, why are you letting him do that? That is not okay. You know, the fun thing was, as grandma, to just let him do, you know, but I realized I was doing wrong. That's part of my job, too, to train and teach. So that's our job. And when he is old, he will not depart from it. We want children to love the Lord and live for the Lord. How can we expect that if we don't train them to do that? If Aaliyah and Doug do not bring Hannah and Marie to church, if Aaliyah and Doug do not show them what it is to live for Jesus every single day, every single moment, why would they do that when they're older? It almost never happens. So it's important for the training to take place, and training is purposeful, okay? And training is work. Is it not, Aaliyah? Training is work. I remember when Sam was in the house, and I was bound determined the girl was going to know how to cook when she left our house. And she was always had such a great spirit when she was that age and very willing to do. And I incorporated her in our homeschool, but I had her throw a dinner party. I said, okay, because there was teens here, and I said, you need to throw a dinner party, and I'm not talking pizza. and she ended up making ham, mashed potatoes, a couple sides, homemade bread, and then homemade dessert.
Wow.
And she did it by herself. Now, she could tell me, could you do this for me, this part right here, while I do this? And I would do some of it, but she had to do the planning, the shopping, the invites, the decorating of the table, everything. That's training, you know? And so we have to be purposeful in it. But she thanked me later on, you know, thank you, Mom. And she's a great little cook. She's a very au natural cook, and cooks super healthy, but she knows what she's doing. She knows her way around the kitchen. I'm sorry, but frozen chicken nuggets and French fries are not meals. And that's been laziness on our part as moms to bring kids up that way. Okay, so sometimes that's a treat, I get it. But I'm talking, I know too many families that every night it's the frozen lasagna, the hot dogs, or the chicken nuggets and French fries, okay? I get not liking to cook, but that's our job, to provide nourishment, to train them how to feed themselves. Hannah and Marie didn't know how to feed themselves as far as healthy food until Aaliyah taught them. And I know she does because I've sampled some of her, like, avocado chocolate silk pie or something. It was pretty good. But who, you know, tofu, that's what it was, tofu. And so I know she purposefully teaches them how to be healthy and how to use, you know, healthy ingredients and stuff. So it's important that we do that. This passage here, back in Deuteronomy 6:4-9, that shows us that God intended for children to learn truths at an early age. Okay, so he's showing us there. But the first part of that passage, verse 5, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thine heart and with all thy soul and with all thy might. And these words which I command thee shall be in thine heart. God first addresses the parents. Okay, and says, okay, you, Julie, need to love me with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And my words, which I've commanded you, need to be in your heart, Julie. So he's not just going right to, okay, this is what you teach your children. He's saying, first, you got to be right. First, you need to be walking with me. And that's super important because we're not going to fool kids. Okay, I'm not going to fool Hannah when she spends time with me, whether I love God or not. Okay, Hannah already knows if Mrs. Frost really loves God or if she's just kind of putting on a show. Kids know that. And, you know, be genuine, and I cannot instruct Hannah when she's with me and try to guide her. Aaliyah cannot instruct Hannah and Marie if we're not walking with the Lord, okay? Don't try to teach something you don't know, all right? It would be very bad for me to give you all a craft class.
Me too.
I don't know crafts. It would be very, very, very bad for me to have a sewing class in here. Say, everybody bring your sewing machines and some material and thread, and we're gonna, one time sold this lady, she wanted to help me, and she was helping me make culottes for Sam. And after I sewed the culottes together, the waist was this big for Sam. Sam was like first grade, and the waist was this big, and then it went down to these little teeny legs. And bless her heart, Miss Glenda held that up, and she said, Julie, I don't think something's right here. I said, no, ma'am, I don't either. So, you know, don't try to teach what you don't know. It's important that we have that relationship, that we do love the Lord our God with all of our heart, all of our soul, and all of our might. Every bit of us, every single bit of us, we need to have committed to the Lord so that we can teach our children. And, you know, kids aren't fooled, neither is God. That goes without saying, is, you know, you're not going to fool a kid, but you certainly were not going to fool God. So you might as well not try to play church or not try to play nice Christian or whatever, because God knows. And you only fool other people, maybe adults, a little bit longer, but you don't usually fool kids. So have a real relationship with God, and only then can we teach children God's precepts. So in the green there, I put, all right, so the first part in the purple was directed toward those with kids in the home. Second part in the green, are your kids all grown up? Okay, that's fine. This still applies. Teach by sharing. Share your growth and verses that speak to you with them. If your Christianity is genuine and consistent, then they are more likely to let you share. Makes me think of a while ago, it was quite a while, man, time goes by fast, but Marie and I, is it okay for me to tell about when we were praying together? Okay. I just did, right? So Marie and I, we set up for a 2-week time frame where we FaceTimed, so that we could see each other on the phone. And we would go over a verse and we would pray together. I think we brought to the table, whatever verse has spoken to you. And then we'd talk a little bit about it, and I'd share mine. We'd share any prayer requests, and we would pray. Marie's not my kid, okay? But I love her, and I want to have some influence on her. And I hope that Marie sees a genuine Christianity in me, and because of that, she'll let me share this with her, okay? Hannah and I were out the other day, and I would be remiss if I ever spent time with one of the kids and didn't share a little bit about God. And so I was sharing how Hannah's like a fish in the water, and she was just swim. And I just stood there because I wanted her to be able to go out a little ways and not be like right in 2 inches of water. So I went out a little ways, probably like, here, so, and then that way she could be swimming around, and if something were to happen, I was right there. I'm not running from the shore. So we had a great time, but I stood in the water, and the water always mesmerizes me anyway. There's something very peaceful about it. I guess maybe I grew up by a lake. That was like our backyard. But it's very peaceful to me, and it really helps me focus and center back around. And to be standing in the water, looking at, is it cumulus clouds that are fluffy?
Yes.
Yes. Right. So I was looking at the cumulus clouds. How's that for bringing back science from 7th grade or something? And I was just looking, and it was so beautiful. And so I shared that with Hannah. Now, I don't know whether she heard me because she was so busy swimming and stuff, but I did, and I was just awed by God's creation. So it's important for me to share that with her, whether she heard it or not. Did you hear it? Yeah. Oh, hey, high five. Yeah, girl. That's important. I can have influence over Hannah and Marie and any other kids, the kids that come in on the bus, Wyatt, Kylie, by interacting with them. And so they need to see the consistency. They need to see I'm not fake, because remember, kids know. And then they're more willing to let me into their world a little bit to share, okay? So if your kids are all grown up, still applies. Teach them scriptures. Ask and say, we've done this before. I had you learn the books of the Bible, right? What'd you get? What did I give you for that? Put your memories back. I think it was $10. I think I gave her $10.
That was a day out.
A day out?
Yeah.
Even better. But see, kids want us to invest in them. You did like that, right?
You're embarrassing her.
I know. Kids want us to invest in them. And maybe it doesn't, and online, maybe it's not that you can take them out for the day because everyone's schedule is different and mine allows for that. But maybe you can, bring them a coffee if she's to the point where she likes coffee. Or what is something you would like? A refresher. She likes refreshers from
Starbucks,
or
and I also
Dunkin'
like
Donuts?
coffee.
Oh dear. And she likes coffee too. But just saying, okay, if you get the New Testament books memorized, I'm going to bring you in a coffee or even breakfast the day, church day. And you know what? $5 or $6 out of your wallet to help them learn the books of the Bible. Do you see what I'm saying? Teach them scriptures, and learning the books of the Bible is teaching them scriptures. Okay, so just, that's a way to invest. Hey, you don't have any kids? That's okay too. You must have kids in your family or in your neighborhood, etc. Challenge them with small verses that you each will memorize together. You've got nieces, nephews, kids, neighborhood, okay? Then you can say, okay, I'm going to teach you the shortest verse in the Bible. And you can teach them Jesus wept. And I can't remember the reference right now. But you know what? You say, if you can come back next week and say that, I will have a soda, or if you want to be healthy, bring them an apple or candy apple or something. Just, and just pay attention to them. Kids love to be paid attention to. Do you like that? Do you like to be paid attention to? And to know that they count. Yeah. And to know that they mean something. Marie and Hannah contribute a lot, and Wyatt to our church, and Kylie when she comes. They contribute a lot. Do we ever tell them? And those of us without kids, we can do that. That's a way that we can reach out. You can talk to them, but it's important to be teaching them the scriptures. So if you can challenge them with a little verse, the bus kids, they can learn verses too. They can. And we can invest a few minutes every week. And, maybe it won't go so well. Hey, at least try. Okay, have the verse written out on a little index card, give one to them, you keep it, and don't put long verses, and say, or maybe it's the first 3 books of the Bible, and you could do that, for a couple weeks.
These girls can memorize long verses.
Yes, these ones can.
It
But,
helps us to
so,
learn them too, if we
Yes.
are holding them to learn it.
exactly. Yeah, that is so true. Don't try to teach what you don't know, all right? Now, that means that you can learn along with them.
Yep.
But don't just say, learn this verse. Okay, that's not going to work. How about we learn the first 3 books of the Bible together? How about we learn the verse Jesus wept? And no, I'm not giving you a prize for that. You're way beyond that. But you see what I'm saying? So whether you have kids in the home, your kids are grown up, or no kids, teach scriptures. We can do this. The next one is, what am I at for time? I've got to watch, 10:31. All right, teach them through testimony. Your kids should see Jesus shining through you, okay? In every circumstance, in every single situation. Aaliyah, Marie, and Hannah should see Jesus shining through you and Brother Doug every day, every moment. I'm not saying you're not going to ever have a bad moment. I get that happens. But your life goal should be shine Jesus. Sam wrote a song, used to sing it years ago, Shine Jesus. And man, it was just powerful because that is what we're supposed to be. And talking to Kaylor the other day, we talked about the signs, the sign ministry. Holding the signs is being a light in a dark world. Okay? We are supposed to shine Jesus. And to our kids, we're supposed to shine Jesus in every single situation, good, bad. John 4:39, who has that? Jen?
And many of the Samaritans of the city believed on him for the saying of the woman, which testified, he told me all that I ever did.
Okay, so this woman, I think it was 5 husbands, right? Okay,
Yeah.
and the one she was living with was not her husband, and the Lord told her that. Okay, and guess what? She ran back and she told everybody about her encounter with Jesus. She told everybody. Jesus was shining through her. Somebody who had lived a not so great life, but she met Jesus. And so now she was telling everybody, she wanted everybody to know. And people ended up coming to believe on Jesus because of her testimony. Okay? So, your kids see you at the best and the worst. Okay? Do you see Mom on good days? When she's having a good day? And everything seems like this. But you also see your mom on bad days. Okay? When everything is not going great. And, we know that Aaliyah deals with seizures. It's not been an easy road for them. And so that's a moment when, they're seeing their mom at a very vulnerable time. Okay, but they also see her when today, she's having a great day because she's, it's her birthday. Yesterday, she petted the dolphins. I mean, so they see at all different stages. Kids see you at your best and worst. Kids see you when you've got your makeup on. Kids see you when you don't have your makeup on. Okay, and they love you anyway. And they see how we handle the good and the bad, the mountaintops and the valleys. They see that. And it's important that they see we handle that by shining Jesus. So when the good times are there, when you're petting the dolphins, it's easy to talk about the Lord. So you're like, wow, God made this dolphin that we're petting. It's so amazing, and isn't it great that God gave us the gift of animals? I mean, it's real easy to talk to kids about that and teach them that way, right? But when you've just come out of a seizure and it's been a bad one, and you're wearing marks from it, and you're hurting, it's a little bit harder to say, God is so good. But that's exactly what you need to be doing for these girls. And that's so important that as a parent with kids in the home, that when you have a lot of money to go buy groceries and fill your grocery carts and get the kids some treats and get the chocolate milk and whatever else, it's awesome. But, and you can say, praise the Lord, we have this. But you know what? When you go in there with $10 and that's all you have to buy food, make it exciting for the kids and point to Jesus. Shine Jesus. Okay, guys, we have $10. God gave us $10. And we are going to try to get as much good food as we can with $10. Thank you, Lord. Okay? Kids take cues from how we handle things. If the mom is like crying and, totally downcast because that's all the money she has, and the kids are like, can we have this? Can we have? No, we can't. I have almost no money, and this is all we can get. Okay, that's very different than kids. God gave us $10. Okay? You see what I'm saying? We need to shine Jesus to our kids.
I just want to say something really quick. When I was growing up, I didn't have the fancy smancy stuff, but you know what I had? My mom made me appreciate the small things.
Yep.
Whether it's, going for a walk or going to whatever it is. Your kids know that you love them.
Yep.
Regardless if you can give them $1 million or you can bake them a carrot cake and shows them that you love them.
And that's
You know
your
what I mean?
testimony.
Seriously, though.
Yeah, that's your testimony that you have before your kids. Parents with kids in the home need to have the shine Jesus mentality. Come mountains, come valleys, come, good, bad, ugly, need to be shining Jesus. And the kids will see that and they will take their cues from the parent. Okay? Well, what if your kids are all grown up? How do you teach them your testimony? If you ever talk to your kids or you ever visit with them, ever, you have influence. You have influence on your adult kids. And you can gently guide conversations to God's goodness as you talk to them. Even more importantly, let them see you put God first in your life. Because especially with adult kids, we can talk the talk, but we better be walking the walk.
They're still watching.
Okay? They are watching, and you do have an amount of influence in them. They need to see you put God first in your life. Our adult kids do. And maybe especially if that bumps them back to second or third spot. Okay? Because my husband's going to be my second spot. God's my first. My husband is second. And my kids take third spot. Okay? Kids and grandkids, they're all like in that third spot together. I couldn't say, and the grandkids are fourth. But you know what I'm saying? And a lot of ladies are not going to agree with that mentality of putting your husband first. Absolutely. Okay? But God is first before them. And the kids will be okay. Your adult kids, they will be okay. Okay? They need to see you putting God first. It's crucial. And you can say you love God and that you're a Christian all day long, but what does our testimony say to our adult kids? My kids are watching me. Devin and Sam, and they are in church, they are loving Jesus, they are serving Jesus, but don't think that my life doesn't have an influence for Christ or not on them. If I started skipping church because of not feeling well all the time or whatever it may be, then, I'm sending cues to my kids who are in church that that's okay. And they still take cues from me. I'm not saying they go off the chart, but I'm saying that it make it a little bit easier when one of them didn't feel super great or the baby wasn't feeling great or something, that they wouldn't be a little bit more okay to stay home. Because in the back of their mind, well, mom does it, she probably could come and sit there, but she didn't, So they still take cues from us, all right? So your adult kids are always watching and to see you, how you will respond, and what do you put first in your life. It matters, okay? No kids, all right? How do you teach no kids, if you don't have kids, how do you teach them testimony? Your testimony affects every single tribe member. And again, tribe is family that you come in contact with, even those you don't have direct contact with. Well, what does that mean? It means that family members talk. They talk about you. Don't think that they don't. They talk about me. And it may not be like, ooh, gossipy, but just bringing stuff up casually. Oh, well, Jen was going to go on a ladies' overnight trip with her church. Okay, that's talking about you, not in a bad way, but wow, that's a testimony. Okay, so, even if you don't have kids, you have family members, tribe members that you have influence over. And, what do they say about you when they're talking together? Do they say you're an emotional wreck? Or do they say that you are strangely calm and peaceful? Do they say, oh, wow, Julie is such a negative Nancy. What is up with that? I hate being around her. Is that what my family is saying about me? Or are they saying that I'm a pleasure to be around because I'm always positive and the glass is always, Kristen, the glass is always half full. What a testimony she has with that. And, she has that testimony not only amongst us, but amongst her family. And when she goes to share her faith and share the gospel with family members, she gets further because of her outlook on life. Glass is always half full. Her family members, her tribe members are more willing to listen. Okay? So, just everybody, all of us can have a testimony, teach by testimony. And the last one is teach them the truth of salvation. Your kids need for you to tell them plainly and multiple times about salvation. If you have kids in the home, then you need to be telling them about Jesus, how he came and he died on the cross for us, how we're all sinners and we're on our way to hell. Don't tell a kid about hell. Yes, tell a kid about hell.
They need to avoid it.
To save their soul from hell, okay? We need to have these conversations. People think that, on visitation yesterday, some lady, Jen, had asked about kids. I think she was going to tell them about, the children's programs here. And the guy's like, oh, no, they're fine. And then we were knocking another door. The grandma must have come out, and she was pretty unkind, and she said, kids don't need to be saved. And she's saying this behind our back. Kids do need to be saved. When kids get to the age of accountability, then it's heaven or hell for them. And if you can't send your kids to church and expect that to be enough. Really? Are you going to leave your child's soul in the hands of Sunday school teachers and preachers and those that are in? Now, they'll probably hear it. Yes, they probably will. But I'm not going to leave my child's salvation up to them. I'm going to have those conversations with my kids. I'm going to train them up in the way of the Lord, and I'm going to tell them that we're sinners and we deserve to die and go to hell. And that's what will happen if we do not accept that free gift of salvation. And if they're not to the age where they understand, that's okay. Talk to them about it. You're not trying to force anybody to take a prayer, to say a prayer, to get saved. That's not what we do. But we do need to teach them. And if they're not, if it's not the parent teaching the kids in the home, who's teaching them? Okay? So.
And Moses is an excellent example of that. And his mother, training him and teaching him before he was old enough.
Yep.
And I sure wouldn't mind having a Moses in my life.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. So don't trust it to tell someone else. Tell them. Romans 10:17, Jen.
So then faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God.
So then faith cometh by hearing. Make sure your kids are hearing it from you. Okay? Kids all grown up, have this conversation with your adult kids. As a parent, I should know if my adult kids are saved or not. Okay? Don't leave it to chance. And don't just say they've heard it a million times growing up. Really?
Million and
Okay.
one. Make it a million and one.
And make it a million one, that's right. And, you know, if they get mad at you for having that conversation with them, for broaching it, that's a pretty good indication that they are not saved. Okay? And you know what? If they get mad, they get mad. They'll come around. They will, I promise. They will come around. But you need to have that conversation maybe several times, you know. But don't ever just leave it to chance or saying they heard it. They already know. No. You know what? Bring it to their attention. Bring it to their face. Make them face the fact that they will spend an eternity in heaven or hell. Now, always right time, right place, right attitude. Always. And, you know, they'll come around, but what if asking the question, you know, perhaps asking them that question will lead them to salvation. How wonderful would that be? Okay? And the flip side is they get mad and they get over it or they get saved. Okay? Have that conversation. Know whether your adult kids are on their way to heaven or not. And if they refuse to listen to you, write them a letter and send it in the mail. Don't try to hand give it to them. Send it in the mail. And I can almost completely guarantee they will read your letter, mainly out of curiosity to see what's in there. And even if they only start it and they don't finish it, you've still planted a seed there and watered it. Okay? So do not just let your adult children live their life and never talk to them about salvation. Don't have kids? Do you have nieces, nephews, grandkids, best friends' kids? Do you babysit? What about the kids that come to church? Tell them the gospel. Okay? You may be the only one who ever tells them about Jesus, or you may be the only one they ever listen to. Okay? Kids are funny, who they choose to listen to and who they don't. Okay? You don't know that it won't be you that reaches the little guy that comes on the bus that misbehaves. How are you going to know unless you try? And it's our responsibility. Don't shy away from telling them about heaven and hell. If they're, and again, I put here, if they're not to the age where they can understand and that they're a sinner in need of salvation, just tell them the story of Jesus. I was thinking of that song. Tell me the story of Jesus, write on my heart every word. Okay? We need to be talking to kids about salvation, about the gospel. We need to be teaching them through our testimony, and we need to be teaching them the scriptures. So you can see, this was geared towards those that have kids in the home, those of us that have adult kids, and those of us that don't have any kids. These apply to all of us. Love your tribe. Love your tribe enough to tell them about Jesus and to show them Jesus. All right? All right, Miss Carol Pop, would you close us in a word of prayer?
Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for another beautiful